नमस्कार साथियों, I am Ashwini Kumar, PGDFX from JNV Firozpur. I am creating this video to explain the different concepts of physics related to CBSE syllabus for class 9 to 12. For my students who are staying at home due to COVID-19, so for that students my advice to stay at home and be safe. So today we have to start for class 12 first unit electrostatics. Today we have to discuss in this unit different topics, like first of all we have to discuss what is the electric charge, then how a body can be charged. There are different methods by charging. We can charge a body by friction electricity, by physical contact with the charged body, by the method of induction. And then we discuss the different properties of electric charges, then Coulomb's law in vector form, then what are the units of charge, relative permittivity, dielectric constant, and continuous charge distributions like linear charge distribution, surface charge distribution, and volume charge distribution, and their related densities. So these are the overview of the today's video. Let's start with the first point. What is electric charge? As electric charge is the fundamental property of every substance due to which it can attract or repel other substances. That means a body can be charged or electrification will be done whether the lose or gain of electrons from one body to another. So it means whenever a body is gaining the electrons, then it acquires the negative charge, and if the body is losing the electrons, it acquires positive charge. It means the transfer of electrons from one body to another that makes the bodies charging. So how a body can be charged? Let's we discuss one by one the different methods by which body can be charged. The first method, that is called by frictional electricity, we use the term, and simply we also call it as by rubbing the objects from between the two objects, we can charge the body. So friction electricity is the electricity produced by rubbing two suitable bodies and transfer of electrons from one body to another. So what happens actually, let's we take the glass rod and silk cloth. The glass rod is rubbed with silk cloth, then we get the silk cloth get negative charge and glass rod get positive charge. And similarly we take the another ebonite rod. If ebonite rod is rubbed with flannel, then by rubbing, after rubbing we find out that the flannel get the positive charge and ebonite rod get negative charge. So it means why this happens, because electrons in the glass are loosely bound in it than electrons in silk. So when glass and silk are rubbed together, the comparatively loose bound electrons from glass get transferred to the silk. Similarly, it means the glass rod lose the electrons, it acquires positive charge, and silk gains the electron, it acquires negative charge. Similarly, that is happening in the case of ebonite and flannel, but flannel lose the electrons and ebonite gets the electrons. So ebonite gets the negative charge and flannel gets the positive charge. So it means that bodies are charged due to the lose or gain of electrons. So by rubbing the basic concept in the friction electricity is that by rubbing the two bodies, the heat produced is used to take off the electrons from the glass rod, and that electron will be transferred to the silk, and due to which they get charged. Second method is by making the contact of two bodies. Before that, let's there's a one list. We get the different bodies we can make rubbing each other. For example, in class column 1 there is a glass, wool, flannel, ebonite or dry hair. Similarly in column 2 there are silk, amber, ebonite, rubber, plastic, polythene, comb. So we rub the two pairs, we get the positive charge on the first column bodies like glass, wool, flannel, ebonite, dry hair. Similarly, in the column 2, there is the silk. It means if we rub the glass and silk will get the negative charge and glass will get the positive charge. And similarly, dry hair comb, we can do this activity in the home also. If the dry hair is rubbed, comb is rubbed with the dry hair, comb acquire the negative charge and dry hair acquire the positive charge. And if that comb is make contact with near the small dust particles or paper or pieces, that will be attracted. So by this the body can be charged. Now, second method, by making the physical contact with the charged body. A uncharged body can be charged by making it to contact physically with the charged body. It means when a charged body, uncharged body is in contact with the charged body, the same charge will be transferred to the uncharged body. So in this diagram you can check, if initially we take the charged glass rod and that is make in contact with the uncharged glass rod. After making in contact, some charge of positive charge of the glass rod is shifted to the second glass rod. So after that will be separating each other, the both rod gets the positive charge. So by making in physical contact we can charge the body. Third method, that is the called method of induction. In this method, a uncharged body can be charged by placing it near the charged body without physical contact. That is called the method of induction. Without physically making contact, the uncharged body get the opposite charge as that of charged body. Let's explain. Suppose we have a positive charged body, glass rod, and we make near another uncharged glass rod. So what happens actually, uncharged glass rod has positive and negative charge equal numbers, because positive charge is due to protons present in the nucleus and negative charge due to the electrons revolving around the nucleus. So that is it means atom, just like a uncharged body means atom is electrically neutral, so there is no charge initially. But when it is made close to the charged body, the electrons, near end electrons, they are attracted towards the positive charge rod, and the positive charge is just repelled by the charged body. So what happens, in the uncharged body there is a shifting of electrons towards the charged body, and positive charge is moving away. And afterward, when this uncharged body, that is that in which the charge is redistributed, negative and positive charge are redistributed. When this is earthed, from the right hand side it is earth, then the positive charge will be go to the earth, and then when the uncharged body is making away from the charged body, the negative charge accumulated, that will be redistributed, and the uncharged body will be negatively charged. So in order to make the negatively charged, we have to bring a positive charged body near the uncharged body, and vice versa. So these are the three methods by which body can be charged. Now, charged body means there is some lose of electrons or gain of electrons. That is the basic concept. Whenever we say a body is charged, it means either it losing or gaining of electrons. Now, what are the basic properties of charges? So there are two types of charges. Already discussed. One is positive charge, other is a negative charge, namely positive negative. So why the body get positive charge? If it lose the electron, and negative charge when it gains the electrons. Now, second basic property is the like charges repel and unlike charges attract each other. Means positive repel, negative repel each other, but positive and negative always attract each other. Now, third basic property is the charge is scalar quantity. So remember, it charge is a scalar quantity. Then charge is additive in nature, means if 2 coulomb and 5 coulomb minus 3 coulomb, it becomes 4 coulomb. It means simple algebra is applied on scalar quantities. So it is additive in nature. In particular system, particular body, if there are different charges are there, total charge will be added algebraically. Then another property is charge is quantized. Now what that means, quantized means the electric charge exists in discrete packets rather than in continuous amount. Means charge on a body will be either lose or gain of 1 electron, 2 electron, 3 electrons, and so on. It means charge on a body is always integral multiple of fundamental electronic charge, that is written with E symbol, whose value is 1.6 into 10 raised to power minus 19 coulomb, and it is taken as the smallest unit of charge. So it means charge on a body Q is equal to plus negative NE, where N is integer 1, 2, 3 and so on. So it means charge on a body is always integral multiple of smallest unit, that is E. It cannot have rational or fractional values, it cannot have fractional values, so that is called quantization of charge. Then charge is conserved. Another property is charge is conserved. That is, the algebraic sum of positive and negative charge in an isolated system remains constant. What that means, for example, when glass rod is rubbed with the silk, negative charge appears on the silk and the equal amount of positive charge appears on the glass rod. The net charge on the glass and silk system before and after rubbing remains 0. So that is called the conservation of charge. So now next, recently the existence of quarks, there is a charge of 1 by 3e and 2 by 3e has been postulated. If the quarks are detected in any experiment with the concrete practical evidence, then the minimum value of quantum of charge will be either 1 by 3e or 2 by 3e. However, the law of quantization will hold good. So next we will start the Coulomb's law, that is force between the 2 point charges. So Coulomb's law limitation is that it is only applicable for the point charges and stationary charges. So that is the one of the basic fundamental law in order to calculate the amount of force between two charges. So what is the statement? That electrostatic force of interaction, that is means either attraction or repulsion between 2 point charges, is directly proportional to the product of charges and inversely proportional to square of distance between them, and acts along the line joining the two charges. That's why it is also called central force, the electrostatic force. So strictly speaking, Coulomb's law applies to the stationary point charges. That is the one of the limitations of Coulomb law. So let's we take the 2 point charges, say Q1 and Q2, and separated by distance r. Then the Coulomb's electrostatic force F is directly proportional to Q1, Q2, product of the two charges, inversely proportional to square of distance, F inversely proportional to 1 by r square, or we can say F proportional to Q1, Q2 divided by r square. And this proportionality sign is removed, we get a constant, that is a K. So F is equal to Q1 Q2 divided by r square, where K is positive constant of proportionality and called electrostatic force constant or Coulomb's constant. Now the value of K depends on the two things. One is the system of units and other is the medium. So in SI system and in vacuum, the value of K is 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught, where epsilon naught is the permittivity of free space, and in medium K is equal to 1 by 4 pi epsilon. So where epsilon is the absolute permittivity of dielectric medium, or simply we can say medium. The dielectric constant or relative permittivity or specific inductive capacity or dielectric coefficient, that is the same name. Popularly it is called dielectric constant, or sometimes in some cases it is relative permittivity, that is epsilon r or K. It is equal to the ratio of epsilon to epsilon naught. Epsilon is epsilon is permittivity of medium and epsilon naught is permittivity of vacuum. So ratio of epsilon to epsilon naught is K, that is the dielectric constant. So in vacuum, F is 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught Q1 Q2 upon r square. In medium, in place of epsilon naught, it's a epsilon. So when epsilon is related with epsilon naught, so we can use the dielectric constant K is equal to, or epsilon r is equal to epsilon by epsilon naught. So epsilon is equal to epsilon naught into epsilon r. So in place of epsilon, when we calculate the force in medium, F is equal to 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught epsilon r Q1 Q2 upon r square. So if we take the ratios between the force in vacuum to the force in medium, we can also calculate that where epsilon naught is the that's the value 8.854 into 10 raised to power minus 12 coulomb square per Newton per meter square, and 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught value is 8.98 into 10 raised to power 9 Newton meter square per coulomb square, but it is approximately taken equal to 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught is taken to 9 into 10 raised to power 9 Newton meter square per coulomb square. Okay, so that is how to calculate the force in medium and force in vacuum. We can also check the ratios between these two forces. So let us check here. We check here the force between the medium and force between the vacuum. So we can also check here the force between medium is always equal to force in vacuum divided by K. So it means the force in medium is always equal to force between the same charges at same distance in vacuum divided by dielectric constant, or we can say divided by epsilon r, that is relative permittivity. So next, Coulomb's law in vector form. So in vector form, how to write, because force is a vector quantity. So again we take the two charges q1 q2, r is the distance between them, such that q1 q2 is greater than 0, it means both charges we have taken as the positive charges. The force between them is the repulsion force. So here we take r12 is a unit vector from q1 to q2, and r21 is the unit vector taken from q2 to q1, and F12 is the force acting on 1 due to 2, and F21 is the force acting on 2 due to 1. So here two diagrams are showing, but you can take only one diagram if the charges are same, q1 q2 positive charges, force is repulsion. Similarly, if the both charges are negative, force again is there is repulsion force. So in both cases the same diagram is there, and same way we can write the Coulomb's law. So in vacuum we are taken especially. So F12 how to write? Magnitude is same, 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught q1 q2 divided by r square, and r21 unit vector, because the force F12 in the direction of F12 the unit vector is r21, and in F21 when we write, that is 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught q1 q2 upon r square r12 unit vector. So unit vector is opposite return, because r12 means taken from q1 to q2 distance is measured, and when we take the force F12 or F21 means acting on F12 means acting on 1 due to the second charge. So this is the way how to write the Coulomb's law in vector form. But if the two charges are opposite charges, means q1 q2 product is less than 0, one charge is q1 positive, q2 is negative, and r is the distance, then the force of between the two charges is attractive nature, but in opposite direction. Similarly, in the same way we can write the Coulomb's law in vector form. In the same way, there is nothing changed. Okay, so this is the way how we can write the Coulomb's law, but only unit vectors will be changed. Only unit vector will be changed. But from Coulomb's law we can find out that F12 is always equal to minus of F21. Means the two charges attract or repel each other will be the force of equal in magnitude but in opposite direction. That means Coulomb's law always obeys the laws of Newton's third laws of motion. So that is F12 and F21 always in opposite directions. Now next, unit of charge. How to define the unit of charge? The SI system, the unit of charge is taken as coulomb, but sometimes how to define 1 coulomb of charge? So we have to define it from the Coulomb's law definition, that F is equal to 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught q1 q2 upon r square. So 1 coulomb is that charge which when placed at rest in vacuum at a distance of 1 meter from an equal and similar stationary charge that repels it with and repelled by the force of 9 into 10 raised to power 9 Newton. It means if we are taking the two charges are same, 1 coulomb, q1 q2 both are same 1 coulomb, then r distance is taken as 1 meter, then the force between the charges is 9 into 10 raised to power 9 Newton, and that is the condition taken to define the charge of 1 coulomb. In CGS system, CGS system, the unit of charge is stat coulomb, or is also called ESU of charge, electrostatic unit of charge, ESU. In CGS electrostatic system, another thing is that the value of K, that is the fundamental constant taken, that is always equal to 1 for vacuum. And so for vacuums in CGS system, Coulomb's law is F is equal to Q1 Q2 upon R square. But in class 12 only we are using the SI system, especially CGS system is used in the higher classes, but only for knowledge we can take. Similarly, we can define the stat coulomb. Similarly, Q1 Q2 is Q say are 1 centimeter in CGS system, then force is 1 dyne. So then Q is said to be 1 stat coulomb. In CGS electromagnetic system, the unit of charge is Abe coulomb or EMU of charge. That is in electromagnetic system. That is used in the higher classes. So in 1 EMU of charge is C ESU of charge. C is the speed of light. So it means 1 electromagnetic unit of charge is 3 into 10 raised to power 10. Sorry, 8 3 into 10 raised to power 8 ESU of charge, electrostatic unit of charges. So 1 coulomb of charge is 3 into 10 raised to power 9 stat coulomb, and 1 ABC coulomb is equal to 10 coulomb. Now next term is relative permittivity or dielectric constant. Now dielectric constant, we define it as the ratio of permittivity of the medium to the absolute permittivity of the vacuum. So it is epsilon divided by epsilon naught, that is the epsilon R, or it is written with K. So that is the dielectric constant. But in terms of forces also we define it as, it is the defined as the ratio of force between the two charges when placed at certain distance in vacuum to the force between same charges when placed at the same distance in the medium. So F vacuum divided by F medium, that is also equal to K or equal to epsilon R. So that is the dielectric constant or relative permeability, but it is the ratio, so dielectric constant has no units. Next, we have to discuss about the different types of charge distributions, continuous charge distributions, because any charge which covers a space with dimensions much less than its distance away from an observation point can be considered as a point charge. But a system of closely spaced charge is said to be form a continuous charge distribution. So it is very useful to consider the density of charge distribution as we do for density of solids, liquids and gases. So for line charge distribution, we have linear charge density written with lambda. If the charge is distributed over a straight line over the circumference of a circle or over the edge of cuboid, then the distribution is called linear charge distribution. And linear charge density is defined as charge per unit length. Its SI unit is coulomb per meter. So in case that, let me take suppose where dq is the small point charge on the line element and dl is a small dl length, then the lambda is defined as QIL, so that is charge per unit length. In particular case, the lambda is equal to dq by dl. As we take the total length is L, total charge is Q, but whenever we have to apply the Coulomb's law in linear charge distributions, we have to assume point charge, very small charge dq and small length dl. So there lambda is dq by dl, so dq is equal to lambda dl. So total charge q, that is the integration of that lambda dl. Similarly, surface charge density, surface charge distribution is taken whenever charge is distributed over the given surface. Say q is a charge distributed over S surface, sigma is q by S, but we take the point surface having point element charge dq over ds surface, sigma is equal to dq by ds. So it's the surface charge density is the charge per unit area and its unit is coulomb per meter square. So total charge we can calculate, that is sigma ds and integral surface area. Similarly, volume charge density, that is rho. So if the charge is distributed over the volume, then the distribution is called volume charge distribution. The volume charge density is charge per unit volume. Its SI unit is coulomb per meter cube. So if the charge is distributed over a cube or charge distributed over a solid sphere, that is called volume charge distribution, and there we take the volume charge density. So again we take the small elements dq, small volume dv, and rho is dq by dv. So total charge on the whole volume we take, that is rho dv. So that is the method how we can calculate the charges on the continuous charge distribution. So for today's, it is the end of the today's slide. So today what we have discussed, today we discussed the different topics related to the first chapter of electrostatics, that is Coulomb's law, especially what is electric charge, Coulomb's law in magnitude form, then Coulomb's law in electrostatic form. So thank you, have a nice day.